Hi guys, George here, and yes, I do like the Grizzlies. My youngest son got me into basketball, or back into basketball, because during my teenage years I was also a basketball fan. Um, who didn't like Michael Jordan, Magic, and Shaq back in the day? Anyway, it's a new ball game today, and things have changed somewhat since my day. And with respect to squad leader. Um, we are now playing three-way matches thanks to Mark Dennehy. In this particular scenario, uh, it's called One War's End by Dispatches from the Bunker. I highly recommend their products, by the way. And no, I'm not sponsored by this particular group. And thanks to Mark, I've been playing, and Dennis actually, Freeberg. I've been playing these scenarios, and they're amazing fun. A three-way slugfest. Now, originally, I was supposed to bring you their afterthoughts right after we had finished the game. I had started recording with OBS. I did not capture the desktop audio, unfortunately, and upon review of the original video, there was spaces of silence. So I'll do this after action report to the best of my ability, but I promise you that as soon as we finish another scenario of this type, that I'm going to capture their thoughts and I'm going to relay their thoughts on the scenario because we came up with a lot of intel that is worth sharing with everyone. So with this particular scenario, there are three sides. There's the Chinese nationalist, the Chinese red Chinese, and Chinese nationalists are actually Chinese bandits. And the American turn is actually a combination of American OSS, which is the precursor of the CIA. Somewhere alongside those forces is also Julia Child, and she was with the OSS in China. Interestingly enough, and Chinese guerrillas that were being trained by Americans. As you can see, this advisor here with the Chinese conscript or recruit with the Tommy gun. Pretty interesting. And pretty much the Americans are on the run. They're trying to exit off the west edge of the board. And the communist Chinese or the red Chinese and the Chinese bandits are trying to eliminate the um, American forces. And there's a very interesting OB, how you score the victory points. This is an SSR 5. With that said, let's turn to the map and to the logs and see how the action unfolded. All right, so let's pause for a moment. So I turned off my video capture device so you could see more of the map board. And basically, I was the American player. Uh, Mark was the red Chinese, and Dennis was the uh, Chinese bandits here. And my tactics were uh, thrust forward with your best leaders as quickly as you can to the center of the map, and this is where I put my sniper. So thrust forward, hit this position, take over this position, and then try to exit along this side of the board. North is here, west is here, east is here. As long as I can take out um, as many exit as many squads as I can with support weapons off this side of the board, I'll be okay. And at first, I overestimated the amount of movement factors I could get, even if I stuck to the road and went CX. And we corrected somehow the mistake that I did um, on the second pass. So basically, what we got here is a little stack of a good leader and a hero with a green squad that is supposed to act as a rear guard. Um, and I'm using the leaders here just to make sure that I am uh, maximizing my movement as much as possible. So in the rear, I have my worst leaders and one support weapon. In the forward position, I have a somewhat good leader, but he's towing a lot of ammunition with them and of a lot of support weapons. I should have left the support weapons in the rear as part of the rear guard, but instead I uh, brought them with, and they are tying me down really. All right. So as you can see now, I believe what I did was I disabled the center on and this is the advanced phase. I disabled the centering on this circle so everything doesn't jingle. And this is only an HTML table that I created using Notepad++ and my little knowledge of HTML. Let's go back. I'm advancing, and I'm not going to stay in the middle of the road for one reason or another. I'm taking cover. All right, I'm taking cover. And now it's the bandits' turn to enter the board. I believe they can delay. Uh, the U.S. side has to enter from this hex here. The Chinese guerrillas and bandits can choose to enter a portion of their forces here and a portion of their forces at a later turn from up here. So basically, they can encircle the American forces rather easily. So if you're going to play the scenario, unless you're a very experienced player and you know what you're doing, I wouldn't recommend picking the Americans in this particular case. Now I'm going to pause again because what will follow is the bandits player just amassing his forces for entry. And I'm going to bring you the action in a moment. Hold on one sec. So we have a Chinese player here with some forces, a power killer stack, and we have a portion of them coming in through here. And we're also discussing the fact that this is a marsh, and for those of you that are familiar with marshes, that's not really a place you want to go to. And a depression. So here we are, beginning with the nationalist or Chinese bandits going all over the place. It's a free LOS check to try and strip them of concealment. Unfortunately, we do not strip too many people of concealment, but just enough. There goes Lieutenant Bond. Looks like the advance phase here. Turn 1, bandit advance phase. Not too much fire, and now it will be the red Chinese turn to enter the board. So at this point, the red Chinese player that's marked an A prepared his forces. So you can see he is also splitting his forces in two groups. One that will enter from this side of the board, and a big chunk of forces that will enter here. We had a little debate about the line of sight across this sunken road because, as you can see, at this level of advanced squad leader, you get a lot of mixed terrain. And in this particular hex C5, you can see that there's a center dot right on the wall of the sunken road. So is this, if a unit is in this hex, is he on ground level or is he on the hill? That was the question. And at what point does it block line of sight to these hexes? Um, Obviously, one of these hexes here should have been my target hex in terms of a destination to ward off any entry from here. Trying to make it to this side of the board from here is almost impossible. Um, but I could have picked this woods hex or even that wood hex, possibly. Maybe not. Anyway, let's go on and see what happens. We're rolling for weather. And check that out. So a little bit of spreading the forces here. And of course, a lone hero going up the hill, but he can exert firepower, albeit a firepower, and he can strip my concealment. At this point, that's all he needs is one good order unit that can strip concealment if he has line of sight to any of my units that are moving. And so he can do the same for the opposing player. Right. Now it's back, I guess, to my turn. Mostly all the forces are on the board. Here I am, losing concealment, but look, I'm not advancing in open ground. I do have wall advantage. I have orchards that block line of sight from higher elevation. So Wilson did pretty well for himself and his soldiers. And now that I have a clear path free of loss checks, I am good. And I can advance my infantry up with their uh, with their concealment, which is the way to go. So I'm pretty happy up to now. It's turn two, American turn two. I'm pretty happy with my advance, and now I have a terrain I can move to, and and try and block everybody. But at the same token, apart from this mortar, nothing could have stopped me from going up this direction and then zooming up as well. You know, during the stress inflicted by battling, you might not see things that you could see in the after action uh, segment of the process of playing, I suppose. We're back to the old expression: hindsight has vision 2020 or something to that effect. Close combat concealment gains. Let's see what happens. I don't think we gained much concealment out of that one. Uh, I'm I'm more pessimistic than I should be. Here it is. We are gaining concealment here. A lot of people gain concealment. Now it's Dennis's turn, and we roll for weather. There's good old snakes, and just a wind direction change, and now here's some fire coming. That was not. That was a heck of a shot. You know, what was I thinking going into the woods? I'm better off right out in the open, really. Anywho, we're getting some acquisition markers out. We're trying to strip some folks of concealment, and check this out. This is the killer stocks coming in. I can't strip anybody of concealment because the hedges are in the way here. It's a good little scenario. It's played on a tiny board, but and it's free of any armor, so it goes fast and quick. And now you can see that a trap is being laid out, and the Americans are basically going to face a wall of firepower from this side of the board, making it impenetrable for them to go past this open ground. And despite their firepower, without any luck, they're just not going to make it. So here's player turn two for the red Chinese, and of course we're getting more reinforcements from here. So here you go, CX and up the hill, CX and across there. Now this is really the target area for the red Chinese mortars, and they can lob grenades over the woods onto the American positions, and even on the bandits' position if they wanted to. A few Stockbergs. Stockbergs, from time to time, uh, do work. Now, if this is not an encirclement, what is? From a tactical point of view, not from a rulebook point of view. So now what Mark has achieved here is a way of advancing into the rear of the Americans completely concealed and eventually forcing them to go out or engage in favorable combat uh, by advancing into close combat while being concealed. So here's some mortar action there, some sniper action. And we broke a unit there. The unit with the HMG of all things. With a sniper. Wow. Snipers were pretty deadly in this game. More deadly than the mortars, I find. Maybe I'm exaggerating. So this is some defensive fire by the US, and we're going after the bandits. We're trying to. Look at that. 12 on the IF team. So here we have the advanced phase, I believe, of uh, it's pretty. It's a shame I cannot scroll from left to right. I can only scroll up and down. So advanced phase for the red Chinese, and they're taking up good positions, I find, and good defensive positions. Yeah, let's go there and see what's going on. Well, you cannot blame um, Mark for adopting these positions here. They're well thought out. That no, I am playing a defensive game, and I am the anvil, and somebody else is the hammer, and my opponent is smack in the middle. There you go. Let's go back and focus in on the action here and go forward. we're doing concealment gains, I suppose. I think despite making these tables, ultimately we should have phase wheels. Let's see. Yeah. These tables will work well, but I like the phase wheels better because somehow they automatically log the phase that you're doing. All right, concealment gains. All right, time to start up another log. Give me a sec. So here are how things ensued so far. I believe both Chinese players have attained their objectives in terms of where they wanted to deploy their forces and where they wanted to move their forces. It's looking pretty grim for the Americans at this point because um, this section of the map board is being closed off. Um, an important squad with a good heavy is the end. A little firefight ensued between the Chinese bandits here and the Americans down on this side of the board, resulting in just one unit being broken off the mortar. So there's a temporary reprieve that may not last that long. Lieutenant Bond here mouthed his MMG, so he's stuck with a 447, but still it's an elite 447, which is hampering movement from this side of the board. I'm pretty sure there's and it's pretty obvious that this is a killer stack that will come down here and block any advance from here. Um, and there seems to be a small alliance between these two forces. And as Mark told me after the fact at the end of the game was, why didn't you take one side of the board or the other? And this side of the board seems to be best, whereby you can block the advance, the Chinese advance from at least this side of the board, and then push forward. You don't want to get yourself locked in a firefight where you have to prep fire. This game is a game of motion, and you want to keep mobility uh, at at your disposal. The moment you lack mobility is the moment that for sure you're going to lose. So do I have any regrets from going up the middle? Nah. Always do something righteous and optimistic. So let's see where we're going here. So this guy, I believe, did not rally, but he lost his DM. And we're rolling to hit table for um, trying to get Mr. Bong hit. More fire with that motor. And here we are, advancing into the woods and into the gully. And cresting. A lot of good that did me. You ultimately do have to crest in order to be able to fight from a gully. But it really sucks to be in a gully, I find. And now, my rear guard, instead of moving forward, I'm going on the attack. Against what? Look at all these forces. What was I thinking? I I was thinking that, hey, does this fellow really want to engage these guys or not? Do they want to lose concealment? Um, I might. Are these guys expendable? Should I use them as a rear guard or not? Ultimately, I decided to use them as a rear guard and try to psych out my opponent. Did it work? Not really. And at this point, we're now in the defensive fire, and the red Chinese are firing. Let's see what's going on. Don't ask me how that guy reconcealed again. Things happen. And we're talking about how these forces can interact with one another. This guy being Creston, this guy being concealed in a wheat field. Oh, there we go. Now we're firing. Takes a morale check, and we get broken. So now we have two broken, well, one broken unit there. Two broken units. One under DM. Here's another fellow that's pinned. Now the mortars are opening up from the north. Actually, west side. North is here, west is there, south, east. All right. Now Turner is going to fire on his fellow Chinese. He's a pretty good leader, has a good amount of firepower. Let's see what happens. This is probably advancing fire phase. Yep. So here I am. I decided not to waste my time. And as you can see, this little stack was effective. It was effective to some extent. Lack some line of sight there. So we're doing concealment gains at the moment. And we're fast advancing into turn 3. Concealment gains. Some routing into the woods. That's all we need to do. Got wall advantage there, but we're also in the woods. Let's see. Now, of all the people that were successful in their advance, it had to be an 8-0 leader with 3 squads of 5.36s. Turner is all the way back here for some reason or another. He should be part of the vanguard, and he's holding support weapons. And so is Turner. I mean Wilson, 9-2 leader. These two guys ultimately should have ended up here, not in the middle of the group. Coordination, very key in affecting combat. So we're now part of the Chinese Bandit turn and trying to self-rally. Removing the M's. A lot of folks are still broken. So the killer fire group here is doing well. Kong here is with an HMG, and he's blocking any advance from here, forcing him to go up there. There's a unit here that is also threatening me. I'm wondering why. What the heck is going on with this guy? We'll see. We'll see what happens. And now, down in the eastern side of the board, there's a nice little advance as well. And here goes Kong, unimpeded, because this guy's broken, right down to here. And guess what, guys? We found out by reading the rule books that this fellow here has line of sight to there. This position will be almost impossible to penetrate. Yeah. Ultimately, this guy could have thrown smoke here and then um, thrown the through or placing, tried to place the DC there and blow this to smithereens that squad. But don't forget, he is on the level -1 elevation, throwing the DC charge up to a higher elevation uh, would be somewhat precarious. We pinned them. There's an exchange of gunfire from here to there. And what I rolled was a 9. A 9. Uh, and from what you can see here is that stock was impervious to my firepower. Only scored a pin. That's pretty nasty. And here come the mortars from the Chinese side. Well, on the IFT. We're going to have to work on Mark's IFT rolls. Oh, we did score a couple of brokies here and there. Lieutenant Bong here sets up a good position. Mortars reoccupied. We have more Chinese bandits advancing from the American rear. Uh, these units are licking some wounds, but they're still going after the rear end. These boys are essentially just blocking my advance north, and so are the mortars. And here he is popping into the gully. Popping into the gully. So this is the Red Bandits' turn, trying to rally these boys. We're in turn 3. I think I'm going to skip to the last log because you guys pretty much know what's going on here. What's going on? Now, as you can see, the assault moves here are not in open ground because he has a +1 height advantage. So here is a stack of forces blocking this exit uh, point for the Americans here, all concealed, and going up a hill against people with height advantages, not a good idea. Here, the HMG Fong is a hero that was born out of heat of battle. You have a 9-1 leader here, but basically he can combine forces with the hero, the 447 and 337. This guy can bounce back out of his uh, out of this gully using minimum movement. So pretty much they block the road on the to the west side of the board for any victory objectives, and now it's really a game of survival for the Americans. So the red Chinese are moving up as well. And here come the mortars are breaking. And at this point, at this juncture, we're on turn 3, and you can pretty much see what's going on, right? We have this path completely blocked off, and the Americans will have to, if they want to get any forces off, they are going to be trying to advance into precarious territory. Um, if they stay put, they risk being encircled and then basically uh, they're going to be picked off by mortar fire and small arms fire. So I'm going to skip to the last log and basically paraphrase what ensued because the video is already 36 minutes long. You could always watch it at double speed, but it's pretty hard to upload a video that's an hour long or 2 hours long. So we're going to jump ahead to the last log, and I'll paraphrase what is happening, and also give you some more thoughts on about this scenario. And let's hold on a second, and with the magic of computing, we'll jump to the last log. Okay, guys, so this is how everything looks at the bottom of the game. And you can imagine what happened to the Americans. Well, either I was going to stay put and get picked off, or I would try and bum rush ahead and try to break through the lines. So I decided I needed to break through the lines. We discovered by looking at the line of sight rules that this was basically open ground to this position here. And I tried to assault that position using DC charges. This was the result of that attack, 2 broken units and no DC. I ended up routing in this direction. I also tried to assault the forces using this direction, and Dennis had better luck on the dice rolls than I did. Now all the Brokies that tried to assault the position from this side of the board ended up routing forward. And ultimately, Wilson and his squad were able to get off the board. This fellow uh, became wounded, so his mobility was compromised. This fellow here was ultimately able to make it as far as there, and then it was a toss-up um, between the Chinese Bandits and the Red Chinese as to who would win. I sat back, ate my popcorn, had some drinks, some tea, some juice, and I was watching the slugfest. I did all I could. Yes, I probably could have played the game better. I could have had better luck. I could have played it differently, but basically, I still stand by the position that, hey, forward thrust, get to this position as far as quicker than everybody else. Um, don't try to take one side or the other, because in terms of mobility, this side is really going to bog you down with wheat fields, and this side here, ultimately you'll have to engage somebody in close combat or long range fire, and they will succeed um, in finishing you off. So I still stand by going up the middle, but you need to you need special choreography. You need to play a good dance, and the do-si-do ain't going to do it. You need to play. You need to hustle. You need to dance the hustle in this game as the American player. So ultimately, some of my forces did route forward, and some of my forces ended up here instead of wiping out that position. This position was not unscathed, though. It did not go unscathed. It did suffer some damage. Um, and let's take a look at the last couple of turns in any case from our little bird dog. So we did inflict some damage here and there, and then we did force the Chinese player, the Chinese players to go at each other's throats, you know, by going up the middle. But my fire was pretty ineffective, and there was not much I can do against that. And I think ultimately at the end we kind of showed each other's averages. So I'll show you that as well. And here is the one thing that did go right, and that is Wilson attaining his objective. Uh, I wish the same could be said about the other leaders, but that was not the case. These guys played their rear guard action really well. At least on two occasions, they held back that uh, red Chinese juggernaut to the rear, and ultimately bringing them head to head with their other Chinese counterparts. And as you can see now, finally the Chinese players are fighting amongst each other instead of ganging up on the American player. This game did take a tone of diplomacy. I'm talking about the game of diplomacy. Whoever played that game knows what I'm talking about. It's a cutthroat game. And at one point or another, I said, hey, I can't play this game anymore. I hate liars and dishonesty. I know hate is a strong word, and we all do some white lies, but hey, I, I, I can't take that. You know, I can't take dishonesty or being dishonest for that matter. It's something that I loathe. Let's put it that way. Here we go. As we can see now, there's conflict between the two Chinese players for a change. But at the end of the game, the Chinese Bandits, played by Dennis Freeberg, were doing well. And there's 3 victory points right there, capturing the HMG. This fellow has another 3 victory points here by capturing the mortar. And we're on to another three-way slugfest next week, which promises to be even more interesting than this one. We started with Festung Budapest. We went on War's End, which was even better than the one before, I find, in terms of action and fun. And the other three-way scenario that we're going to play, which I'm going to probably bring to you next week or maybe the week after, or a couple of weeks after, I suppose, is is really looks like tremendous amount of fun. Here we have conflict, and at this juncture, it doesn't look like the Chinese bandits are going to give the Red Chinese any uh, room to maneuver. There's a head-to-head fight now between the Chinese bandits and the Red Chinese, as you can see here. Uh, Looks like Dennis rolled boxcars as opposed to his usual threes and fours, but and look, the snipers are now being well. In this particular case, they were not activated, but they did play a role. They did play a role. Let's zoom in on the action here. It's all in the center of the map now. The Americans are out of the picture, and the two Chinese players are at it with each other. Oh yeah, and this is how it ended. This is where the last player threw in the white flag and said, "Okay, we had enough." And Mark is telling me, "Really, George, you should have taken one side of the board." I said, uh, "Mark, I should have gone up, but I should have better coordinated my thrust going up the middle of the board." I think that also Dennis kind of agreed with Mark and said that the south part of the board, which is here, is really not an optimal route path or exit path. This side looks better. I really wish that we changed sides and had another crack at the scenario, but it's always fun to play something new. So we're going to play something new, and let's go through the log and see ultimately what averages we had. Hold on a sec. I did say I was going to share with you our rolling averages, just for this final two turns. Mark, 7.35. He has rolled good on his morale checks on his close combats, rally, and others. Terrible. All right, and then Corporal Curious, that's me. Good at rallying, close combat, horrible, horrible. Task checks 11, average of 8. Now, how can you beat this? Green, 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 light green, 6.62. Well, guess who won? Dennis. And he fought well. He fought well because basically he had to solve a puzzle, a problem, and he solved it well. He brought a force, a certain amount of force here that was used to propel and keep the American player in check, or to make sure that he gets out of the woods. The woods will never be safe for him. And at the top of the top of the board, he brought down the hammer with his HMG. Right. Both players played well, but I guess luck did play a role in this game. So, with 47 minutes into this after action report, I hope you enjoyed it. It was really a fun scenario, and I highly recommend uh, the products from let's not mispronounce the name, dispatches from the bunker. They're reasonably priced and plenty of fun, right? So look into it and give it a go. This is exceptional, um, exceptionally well designed. All right. With that said, I'll bid you guys a great weekend and a great week ahead. And have fun, roll low, and good luck to the Grizzlies, Memphis Grizzlies. They used to be known as the Vancouver Grizzlies, and I still like the Raptors. I still like the Celtics, and you know, guys, have fun and take care. Bye.